Hello, everyone. This is Derek from Matricon, and in this session, I'll talk about migrating towards a unified solution for your data connectivity. So when we look at the big picture, across the marketplace, there are many forces at play that are affecting how companies compete. So whether that's globalization or changes in the workforce, whether you have to work remote or people are retiring or new people are coming in, supply chain challenges, environmental issues, all sorts of things are affecting how businesses run. And one viable way to start to compete in this environment or even to start to dominate, if you do it right, is through digitalization. So if you have automation in your business and you have a way to tie that to the rest of the enterprise, you of course start to make better decisions faster because they're based on the data that's coming directly from your plants or your shops, and therefore you have a clearer view of what's happening internally in the company, and also you can respond faster to the marketplace. So there are a number of data, let's say, technology enablers that are actually making this happen. So whether we're talking about, of course, having automation in the company or the adoption of open standards to lower the barriers between vendor lock-in or proprietary systems. There's also the Internet of Things, so a more global perspective of how you actually share that data and what you can do with it. And hand in hand with that come the types of analytics that you can do. So whether you've got AI or machine learning, or just all sorts of other big data type activities. But to bring all this together, one thing that is very clear is that, of course, you need proper access not only to the data, it has to be secure access, and you need to get it in a context that's actually useful for those who are going to use it at whatever level they're at in the company. So OPC UA is a standard that actually does that. It provides that capability. And I just cover some of the aspects of why it stands out as a key data connectivity standard for the current IoT era. So when we look at a company, there are various factors that we have to take into account to say that we've got a complete solution for our data connectivity or the use of data across the enterprise. So when you look at the different company levels, at each one of these, whether you're talking about things happening on the shop floor or just overall in operations, and then you shift over into the business network or even out to the cloud, you actually have common requirements, although they might come in different forms. So for data access, as far as the ability to talk to data sources or to talk across the network to access the information that came from those sources, that's a must across the enterprise. You also need end-to-end security. So whichever A to B point that you're dealing with or spanning the entire corporation, you still have to make sure that that data is secure, especially with the growing threats of what happens when you're using digital communications. And on top of that, you also have to adjust for or take into account what transport you're going to use, because the types of information and how quickly you need to share that information down on the shop floor is not the same as the environments that you deal with across the enterprise or when you're talking to clouds or cloud communications. So when you want to put together a solution that encompasses everything, call it basically a unified way of communicating, this is the challenge, right? And now, even if you have all that, you still have to address the fact that you need to have it in a context that can actually be used by the recipients that are going to use this information, and hence how you express the data and whether you're able to provide multiple views and how easily new components that get added in can start to use that information. All of that falls into the, let's say, the catch-all category that I have here for kind of a standardized context, how you share it and how you work with it. Now, the good news is that OPC UA actually does all of this. Additional good news is that you don't have to use every feature and facet that OPC UA provides. You just need to use the pieces of that technology that are relevant to whatever your company is using. So that gives you room to grow, and at the same time doesn't overcomplicate how you implement your solution today versus what you'll do when you do grow. Okay, now one way to look at this overall, this unified solution, and what does that look like, where you either cobble together multiple standards to try to make it work, or you use sort of a common unified method. So if you think about it as a balancing act for trying to get these different systems to work together, when you start to scale up, it's not just one person trying to figure out how to make particular functions work. You're actually adding more and more people, more departments, more systems that are trying to work with the data. They get further and further away from the data sources, and you're trying to keep all this running. So it basically starts looking like sort of a giant, circus act where you're trying to balance all sorts of things, many people, many moving parts, and that starts to get complicated. And this is where sustainability starts to be A, expensive, and B, a little bit unstable. Now, the alternative to that is when we are talking about a scaled or scalable unified solution is, for example, using OPC UA, which means that you're actually doing more of the same thing. So you're actually just using different components of the same standard, but the standard is broad enough in order to support the entire operation. And that's basically what happens here. So when you use OPC UA, you get a sustainable solution because everything is unified and it actually works the same way. So to sum it up, why do you need a unified solution? Because it ties together various aspects that are all essential for actually making the data sharing meaningful, secure, and sustainable across the enterprise so that you can pursue digitalization and competing better in the marketplace using something that's proven and adopted basically around the world. So even as you do add additional components, the odds of them working easily with the rest of the systems that you already have in place is much higher. Okay, so anyways, hope you enjoyed it. That's the quick overview of how, when you're using OPC UA, you actually are going towards a unified solution that provides you enterprise-wide data access in a context that everybody can use. All right, so see you next time.